Also, it's just everyone using each other.
Yeah, but welcome to politics, Kyle. Everyone just uses each other.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Debatable with our hosts Nina and Kyle. I'm Kyle.
I'm Nina, and if we bummed you out in the previous episode about the elections, we're going to bum you out even more with this episode. So for today, we're going to talk about the aftermath, or what we think might happen as a result of this new shift in power and this new consolidation that Duterte has. So in the previous episodes, we discussed what went wrong during COMELEC, and as you've noticed, nothing has been really done about it. So here we are now. It's approaching June 30. The new senators will assume their position. I mean, at the time of this recording, it's approaching June 30.
Yeah.
So, by the time this episode is released, it's probably already, the terms of these senators that we discussed in 2 episodes ago. Right? So, let's talk about what might happen as a result of the failures, quote-unquote, of the COMELEC. So the first thing, I guess, is to talk about the reactions that people had right after the election results came out. And I think it's pretty mixed. There were a lot of online threads in support of what happened and against the new candidates. There have been rallies, I know. There has been a lot of media hype about it. My favorite story is actually about Mike Enriquez. Do you know about that one?
Oh yeah, when he started ranting.
Yeah. So
on air.
they were talking about getting interviews with these people, and Mike Enriquez says we should grill them about what policies they're going to make, etc., etc. We should ask them immediately what kind of platforms they plan, what kind of projects they're going to implement now that this is the new composition in power. And then one of his co-hosts said, not yet, let's not bombard them with work yet. Let's have them celebrate their moment of winning. And Mike Enriquez snapped. He's basically the poor Filipinos can't afford to wait.
Clap back.
Yeah, it was a major clapback, and then they had to cut the commercial break because of it. And I was just it was so hype, basically. And I was expecting that kind of anger to be sustained. I was expecting that kind of retaliation against what happened to be more prominent. But after a while, as you notice, it kind of died down.
Yeah, so we don't know what to do anymore.
We don't know what to do. And honestly, I can understand it. I'm not mad that people stop being pissed off about it. Because even if we continued being pissed off, the powers in place can ignore us. And it's frustrating. I feel like if we mobilized more, something would have happened. But at the same time...
Yeah, but what do we want to happen?
Exactly. One, we don't know what we want to happen. But second, not a lot of people can afford to cut so much time out of their day to mobilize that way. I know, Kyle, you met someone from your floor here in Berkeley who went to COMELEC.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I like that story.
I was just walking along Katipunan, and then I saw one of my former students, one of the people I used to coach.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, hey, how are you? It's nice seeing you again. And it's like, oh, I just came from somewhere. And it was already 9-10 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, what are you doing out so late? And he said, I just came from COMELEC. I was like, what do you do in COMELEC? Oh, I filed a petition for the COMELEC to provide a complete explanation of what happened with the transparency server and stuff.
Yeah.
A complete detailed explanation of everything that went wrong. I was like, wow. I'm so proud. I just went to get a chicken.
Yeah. But it's nice that during the early days, there's so many people who were asking what they can do. But the failure was, even the opposition themselves didn't give a sufficient response. They didn't take advantage of the people's anger and sort of streamline them to something productive. So everyone was just doing their own thing.
Well, as Nathan said in a previous episode, they're still at the process of licking their wounds and planning what they're gonna do for the next election. So I think that the mindset is that, well, at this point we can't do anything about the 2019 elections. Let's look forward into 2022.
But I think why I wanted to discuss the reactions of people specifically is because I guess it just gave me hope. I think we're capable of making changes if we just knew what to do. We do have the anger. We have the sufficient people to do so. We have so many skilled lawyers who are on our side and against the acts of COMELEC anyway. But, we'll just see how things go from there. So
maybe what we can... Oh, I just thought of something.
Yeah.
Because you were talking about COMELEC just a few minutes ago. because we recorded.
We're recording this like simultaneous with the previous episode, so this is all just recorded in one day. Anyway.
Yeah, so we were just talking about, we were just talking about the Comelec and how it has jurisdiction to tell everyone what to do. And I remember that in the campaign episode, we were talking about how like the opposition candidates didn't have much access to like TV advertisements.
Yeah.
So maybe what the Comelec can do is to mandate that every candidate has equal airtime.
Yeah.
And that has happened before, actually. Like it made radio stations give equal airtime to everybody. Yeah, so I'm not sure if that was implemented well, but I'm pretty sure like if it was implemented, it could it could level the playing field for everyone a lot.
Mm-hmm. But you also have to consider how many senators ran these elections. There's a lot. So if all of them got equal airtime, people who are like in the running to win, and those who are sadly what we call nuisance candidates, if they all got equal airtime, then I think that it would give us a harder time deciding who to vote for. So that's probably the opposition of that motion, right? But again, these are just thoughts of ours of what we can possibly do and what we can possibly discuss in the future. So, besides the reaction, the next thing we want to discuss is probably the power structure. So, what does the government look like now with this sort of new people coming into place? Especially, it's not just the senators, it's also the House of Representatives. So, there's this really big misconception that Duterte is the one consolidating power. But, in reality, or what we see, especially political science majors and even our professors, it's that he's not the one gaining power per se. He's lending power to so many other groups. And what my professor said is that there is now just a bunch of snake pits that exist. And snake pits are, well, bad pockets of power. Or pockets of power where they try to vie for dominance against other snake pits. So you have the faction, for example, of GMA, who is not really, I don't think that she is under Duterte's control. If anything, she's just taking advantage of Duterte's popularity, attaching herself to Duterte, so that she can gain legitimacy again.
So a lot of these people, they're not, strictly speaking, allies with Duterte. It's just they want to be associated with him and his popularity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, so for example, if I was a politician and I wanted to win, even though I don't agree with Duterte, I'd still want to ally myself with him so I can get his support base also.
Yeah, so I'd say they're just like all individual but equally dangerous politicians who just so happen to attach themselves to Duterte. So you have the pockets of the Marcoses, who I think in any other situation wouldn't attach themselves to Duterte. But because he's the source of power right now, they have to if they want to become relevant again in politics. So GMA did it, the Marcoses are doing it. So I'm not surprised that
Grace Poe did it also.
Grace Poe did it, but we're not sure if she is like a bad actor per se, or she's just taking advantage of Duterte's popularity right now. So I wouldn't say Duterte is the mastermind of everything. If anything, he is just being used by so many different pockets.
So he wasn't the one who persuaded people to change parties, for example.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah. He doesn't really care what party you're on. He just wants things done. And I think that's what makes Duterte so dangerous, is that he's not like Marcos. Marcos micromanaged
he's
everything.
Not a micromanager.
Yeah, he's not.
If we're gonna bring it up to the that whole theory about tyrannical or authoritarian leaders having the keys to power.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he doesn't really control the people who hold the keys to power.
Mm-hmm.
He's just the ones who's lending the keys.
Yeah. And he doesn't know how people are going to use those keys of power. If anything, the fact that Duterte is not micromanaging as well as Marcos did just proves that he really isn't the mastermind. For example, there have been so many situations, even in foreign policy, where what Duterte says or what he wants, people in the DFA don't really follow. Or they try to skirt around it. Or how a lot of the statements Duterte makes, it's not unified, right? Because a lot of even his own politicians aren't sure if they agree with it or not. There's you notice how unmanaged government is because they're not always on the same page.
So do you think that this wow, this government, this administration isn't as stable as we think.
Yeah, it isn't.
So
Duterte projects himself, for example, as a strong man. But he's only a strong man on stage. He's only a strong man when he presents himself. But within his own government, I don't think he has full control.
Yeah, so if our short-time goal is to not have Duterte in power for a very, very long time, that doesn't seem to be as big as a problem as we thought. Before we used to think that, Duterte is gonna stay in power for decades and decades, like Marcos.
Yeah, but he doesn't want it. He's just there because other people want him to stay in power, and they're making it so that he stays in power. He makes so many statements about how he's so tired.
Yeah.
So he's not really the strong man. If anything, Gloria was more of a strong man. But she's a behind-the-scenes strong man. Because when she was president, she manipulated everyone to be on the same page. Always parroting what she does. Duterte isn't that great of a micromanager. So that's what I think the power structure is like. What will that lead to is interesting. So I'm not really verbalizing it as well as my professors have because it's really hard to explain. But basically, people are just following what Duterte wants, not because it's what's best for the country or because he's the mastermind, but because they kind of just have to, if it means staying on Duterte's good side and still being influenced by the power he lends them. That's the power structure. It's still reckless. He's not dangerous, but he's reckless. And that's still what allows so many bad things to happen.
So he's dangerous, but not necessarily maliciously so.
Yeah. People frame Duterte like this big monster that we have to protect ourselves from. But it's not really Duterte that's the problem. It's everyone else around him that makes Duterte dangerous.
Oh, that's why...
wears people as armor sort of thing.
Oh, that's why... in the previous episode... I think Nathan also said that, a lot of people do believe that Duterte is a good person. He's just surrounded by bad people.
Yeah. So, I personally think, and it sounds really bad coming from me, but I honestly personally think that Duterte is not the biggest threat. He probably wants what's best for people. He's just stupid in terms of how he does it. Which is dangerous. You don't want someone who is a president but can't control his own cabinet. And that's basically what's happening.
I see.
Yeah. So the next part I want to talk about is, after that vague discussion of power structure, all you need to know is Duterte's not in power. It's everyone else who used Duterte who's now in power.
He's just the figurehead.
He's just the figurehead. Marcos is now in power again. GMA is now in power again. But the thing is, we don't pay attention to them as much because they're using Duterte as the main shield. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that is interesting.
I really find it interesting. And I think a lot of political science majors have already noted this and seen it.
Oh, that's pretty cool because in the past you've had cases of our president being a puppet of other countries.
Yeah.
But this time he might be a puppet or he's being used essentially as a puppet, but not from above, but from below.
From within.
Yeah.
Yeah, so notice how Duterte's main campaign when he ran was he wants to go against the old elites. He wants to topple down dynasties. He's there because he's populist, meaning he wants to negate the old politicking that took place. He explicitly does not like the Aquinos. He explicitly does not like political dynasties. At least that's how he packaged himself in the start. Right? But now he's becoming the very same tool that allows the elites to come back into power. Like
what Obi-Wan said, you've become the very thing that you swore to destroy.
Yeah, but the thing is, Duterte is not noticing those things. Or he thinks he's using the old elites to get what he wants. But the old elites think that they're using Duterte to get what they want.
Oh, so it's just everyone using each other.
Yeah, but welcome to politics, Kyle. Everyone uses each other. So, in policy making now, it sends really bad precedents. So, what do we have now because of Duterte? We have strongman narratives, we have sexism, we have tolerance of China. We're basically giving our fishermen and our waters to China. I'm pretty sure a lot of senators and a lot of members of the executive and legislative and even the judiciary do not agree with the course of actions we're taking with our foreign policy.
Yeah, especially Justice Carpio.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he made the case, in the arbitration against China.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so basically, you can't really speak up now because everyone has knives against each other's throats. So besides the tolerance of China, we might have federalism be brought to the table again. The reason why, for example, Duterte wants federalism is because he honestly thinks that's the best way to break apart power, right? Because he likes his independence in Davao, and he thinks that if everyone else got it, things would be better, right? So he's coming from a genuinely good place. But the reason why elites support federalism is it's a way for them to get their power back, especially in local government units. Right, so I'm
that should be an episode. Like if it comes up again, we should make an episode on federalism.
Federalism. That's such an old topic.
But if it's gonna resurge, we might as well.
We might have to talk about it again. But for now, it kind of died down because I don't think before the federalism or the call for federalism may have passed the House, but it wouldn't ever pass the Senate. But now it might be different, and that's why I brought it up as a possible issue that we need to keep an eye on. Second thing is. Not second, actually. It's like the fifth thing. The disregard for human life and human rights. We've seen like Tok Hang be such a thing. But now that you have less vocal people on board, especially in the Senate, they might get away with even more injustices.
Yeah, defunding the Commission on Human Rights some more.
Yeah. So before, did they really push through with that? Or did it not get approved in the Senate?
I don't think it was approved.
Exactly. It wasn't approved in the Senate, but now it might be approved. They might lower the budget for all the important departments. And last, I guess, is the legitimization of the Marcos regime. Now that Imy's back in power and Bong's becoming relevant again, I wouldn't be surprised.
Bong?
Bong, sorry. Sir, Bongo,
too many bongs.
Like Bong Revilla. Like,
Bongo, Bong.
Yeah, people gotta stop with all the bongs. But basically, Imy's back in power. If anything, they might take advantage of Duterte. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did. If they eventually tried to topple Duterte. So there was this theory before that the reason why Bongbong wanted to be VP isn't because he supports Duterte, but because he wants to be VP so that when they focus now on toppling Duterte, Bongbong gets the power as the vice president. So it's like a long haul game, isn't it?
Paano kung siya panalo, tapos he starts like joining the opposition. Allies with the Marcos na.
I wouldn't be surprised because politics is everyone in politics is what we call balimbing. Again, though, I think the disclaimer is very important at this point. Everything I've talked about thus far are all speculations. All speculations. All political speculations based on trends, based on our understanding of power, based on our understanding of how the old elites work.
Yeah, but that's really dangerous because I remember Duterte allowed the Libingan ng Bayani issue to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And people challenged that, saying, we're gonna forget our history and whatever. And the court said, it's just a burial, man. Like, people won't forget their history just because of a burial. But now, like, people are literally
forgetting history.
Yeah, thanks, Supreme Court.
Yeah, so besides, like, those kinds of precedences, what kind of policies do we expect to pass? We think death penalty might be on the table again. Political dynasties, I don't think it's going to be any easier now to create laws against them, especially now that we have so many new dynasties reestablish themselves in Senate. They might lower the age of criminality again.
Criminal responsibility.
Yeah, so what was the proposed age? 9 years old?
Wasn't it 5? Wait, no. Wasn't it 12?
Oh, 12. Right?
It used to be 9 and then they turned it to 12.
Yeah, like a compromise. Like, fine, not 9-year-olds. We'll just prosecute the 12-year-olds. Like, that's any better. Right? So, obviously, that didn't pass in the Senate. Thank God. But now, again, if they try to bring it up again, I think it might be a different story. And, again, train. I think the most tangible one. We've already seen Train 1 pass. There was a edit and we had Train 2. I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be Train 3, 4, 5.
And motions about Train.
Motions about Train again in future debates. So that's what policy making might look like. All of these speculations, I really love talking about this because it's just like a bunch of theories that you can apply. I'm strangely excited about thinking of all of this.
Oh, great.
But not in the fun... Like, it's fun, but also very scary. Because it makes me sad. It's like, I feel very clever. Like, he's just lending keys to power. And then I was like, oh shit, he's lending keys to power. That's a bad thing. So that's what policymaking would look like. And why are we noting all of this? I think, again, like all other episodes. I think there's a really big misconception about how we look at Philippine politics. Like, we only look at one big part of it. Everyone just focuses all their attention on Duterte, putting the blame on Duterte. But if we continue to do that, that's how Duterte and all his cronies get away with it.
Yeah. You let them get away with being the real people in power.
Yeah.
Because you don't focus on them. You focus on
we focus on the puppets and not the puppeteers. There's so many people behind the scenes. When was the last time we heard anything about Gloria? But we know Gloria being the Speaker of the House and Gloria being always there in Duterte's dinners. She's probably whispering in his ear a lot of things and getting what she wants as a result.
Speculation, but...
Speculation, but I think that given Gloria's track record and her ability to influence everyone around her, it is highly possible, along with the Marcoses, especially since they have money. Right? So they're the real strongmen. But they're not the on-stage strongmen, which is what we call in politics. On-stage and off-stage. They're more off-stage, which are more dangerous.
Yeah, like Dick Cheney in the United States.
Yeah, exactly.
Yung VP ni George W. Bush.
Yeah. Dick Cheney was the main reason for a lot of the bad policies that took place. But we don't blame him, do we? Whoever remembers who the VPs are, whoever remembers who are the speakers of the House, whoever remembers who was like the majority and minority in the Senate. No, they only remember the president. And that's how Duterte and all his cronies will get away with it.
Hi. Unless there's a musical made about the VP, like in Hamilton. let's make a musical about the Secretary of something.
Yeah. So basically, this kind of a gloomy episode, despite my hyper voice, because I think a lot of these things are dangerous.
I don't think it's absolutely gloomy. Like you said, it's not as stable as we used to think it was. Like, I mean, like the administration isn't as stable as we used to think it was.
It really isn't. It's just there's so many dangerous people in power, but it doesn't mean they're all on the same page. And once we note that, and once we know who to target, then I'm pretty sure, hopefully, the candidates in 2022 won't make the same mistakes they did now.
We have to first identify, like, who caused the problems first.
Yeah. And that's why, like a few episodes back, right, when we talked to Nathan and Bianca, they said that it was wrong to target Duterte because he wasn't even on the ballot. Yeah, but we should be attacking those who are on the ballot, those who are using Duterte's power to gain them legitimacy. So that's for this episode of Debatable. Basically, the main takeaway is you gotta know how complex politics is to understand that our approach so far has been wrong. And thus, all these possible aftermaths, all these theories, they don't come from nowhere. They come from precedents. They come from our understanding of how Marcos works. They came from our understanding of how GMA worked. And I think it's all just a pattern. And history is repeating itself because it's just getting a new face. But underneath it all, it's all the same problem.
Yeah.
And that's why we get to study politics. It's all patterns. All patterns.
I think it's important for us to know that it's just a big machine. And, like, we look at the machine as a whole instead of all the little parts that make the machine work.
Yeah.
So, like, from the outside, it seems stable. It seems like, oh, we can't, like, dismantle this administration or whatever. Like, we can't have the opposition win at this point.
Yeah,
that's because we're looking at the machine as a whole. But there are so many weaknesses within the parts of the machine.
Yeah. And that's how a lot of movies about toppling power, you know, this is just like, oh, we gotta attack this one weakness. Like in Star Wars, like we gotta attack the core, right?
Yeah.
Because the Death Star looks so scary from outside. But there is a weakness inside because it's not as stable as you think when you look at all the inner mechanisms. Star Wars reference. I'm happy.
Nice.
This is a great way to end this episode. So thanks again for listening to this series. I guess since it's the last episode, we'd like to thank everyone for their patience, first of all, for waiting for us to do this in a span of 2 months. It's just been really busy. Okay, I had to go abroad a lot of times. I have my graduation in a few days.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. I get to wear my sublime finally. Kyle just finished law school and had to deal with some
first year.
Oh, you're done. No, sorry. None with your semester in law school. Yeah. And you had to deal with your own things. I had PIDC, which just drained the living hell out of me. But we're back, and I'm happy I get to do this again because this is really a good break from debate. I take a break from all the stress of debate by talking more debate stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a
It's
problem. Okay. Thanks for listening. My name's Nina.
My name's Kyle.
And that's it for this episode. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.